Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So the weather's pretty miserable here, and even though we're getting into spring, I still feel that I want to eat the occasional really sort of heavy wintry dessert. So today it's going to be sticky toffee pudding. It's a classic, most people love it. It is very indulgent, so don't have it too often. And when you see how it's made, you won't want to have it too often because it's lovely, but it is very rich. So what you're going to do is put your oven on, get it ready, preheating. It's 180 degrees Celsius, but I'll put all the details in the description. Then get yourself a nice, these are like the old school pudding bowls. I think these are brilliant. So something that's nice and deep because your batter is going to be quite substantial, and then you can just cut into this and cut little slices, or let's be honest, big wedges out when you want some. That's been greased, so I used the remains of the butter from the pack, but again you could use oil, whatever's convenient, but just grease that. And then there's going to be a sauce element which I'll talk you through, but for the actual cake you need 200 grams of dates. Now these ones are the ones that you can buy that are already chopped up, so it means there's no pits in them. I find that really convenient, so that's in the baking department. So your 200 grams of dates, and it's got 2 teaspoons of bicarbonate of soda in it. And then you're going to take 200 mils of boiling water and you're going to pour that over it, and then that's going to soften up the dates, and this is going to help with the sort of sticky element of the sticky toffee pudding. Don't worry if you don't like dates, because you can't actually taste them when you're eating the pudding because they're not really visible in it, and all you get is that lovely sticky toffee taste. This is really where you get the toffee taste from. So we're going to leave those for 10 minutes and then we'll come back to them. You're also going to need 2 eggs, 150 grams of plain flour, and there's actually 2 teaspoons of baking powder in there, but you can't see it, but it's actually just there. Then 75 grams of butter. Now I've got 75 grams of butter and it's slightly salted because the salt balances out with the sweet. And then 50 grams of sugar. Now I've got caster sugar here, but I would have put dark brown sugar in, which is better for this cake. Truth is, it won't make a difference, but if you've got the brown sugar, use it. The truth is, I'm using all of the brown sugar that I've got in the sauce. So because I only had a certain amount, and I should have had more, confession, I should have had more, I'd rather put the brown sugar into the sauce to make the sticky toffee sauce, then you won't miss it in the cake. But ideally 50 grams of dark brown sugar. So what we're going to do now that these are soaking, leave them for about 10 minutes, is we'll start to cream the butter and the sugar together. I've made the butter into cubes because it's easier to cream it. I'm doing it by hand, but again, if you've got a food mixer, just go for it. And I have to say as well that there's lots of different recipes that I've tried for sticky toffee pudding, and this is my favourite. It's a modification of a Nigella Lawson one. I have adapted it to suit myself because it's got treacle in it, but a lot of us aren't that keen on treacle, and to be honest, sometimes it's not necessary. So I just slightly modified it to suit myself, but full credit would go to Nigella because I like the balance in her recipe. To be honest though, I've cut the sugar in the sauce quite substantially and it still works for me. But again, it's always up to you. So all I'm doing just now is starting the process of working that sugar into that butter, and then you can start to cream it. So by hand it does take longer. If you've got a food mixer, you can just get right in there. But if I have the food mixer, you can't see what I'm doing. So what we'll do now is, through the magic of YouTube, is you will come back to me when this is creamed. Right, so that is our butter and sugar creamed together, and I am knackered because that's hard work. But there you go. If I did it in the blender, you wouldn't be able to see it, so I did it for you. Now, we're going to add 1 egg, get it mixed in, and then the second one, but sometimes your mixture can curdle. So I'm going to be very careful to add a little bit of flour as we go. So this, as it is, could curdle, and you can bring it back, but to avoid that, we'll just pop a little bit of the flour in. And remember, that flour's got the baking powder in it too. So that just allows it, or prevents it rather, from starting to curdle. And you might be able to see that our dates are soaking just now, and it's got that foaminess. That's the bicarb. Now, if you think this is starting to curdle, add in a little bit more flour. That'll catch it. But it's not the end of the world if it looks like it is, because you will pull it back. It's just while it's all starting to blend together. But it can look as if something's very strange, but it all works out in the end. Just don't throw it away and don't think, oh, what have I done? This doesn't look right. And I'm going to pop in the second egg. Again, it just looks strange at this point because you're halfway through doing that. Again, in with our flour. Just whatever feels like a nice amount just to get you started, because it's all going to go in soon anyway. Now that's starting to come together. Again, a little bit more flour. And just stick with it. Bit more flour again. And the rest. So it might feel as if it's a bit dry just now, but remember your dates are going in, and that's going to really loosen it off and change it into a batter. So because it's not the way that you would normally make a lot of your traditional cakes, you can get a bit worried about it and think, oh, what's this doing? It feels a bit strange. But it's just because the very last thing you're going to do is loosen it off. And we're just about ready to do that. So you can see now that you've got your thick batter, but we're going to loosen that down. So we'll just give this a little mix. Can you see how that's really helped it? Now it's looking quite sticky. Give it a little mash up. Very nice. So we will now pop that in here. And it doesn't matter if you've got some bits of date that are mashed up and some bits that are not, because overall when it's in the cake, it just becomes really toffee-like. And now we're very gently going to mix this through. And you'll be able to see the texture, and you've really loosened off that batter now. But you're very much wanting to keep it nice and light. You don't want to beat it, you just want to very gently get it all blended through. You can see the colours coming together. And when you get that nice light toffee colour, and it feels nice and light and airy, I think the bicarb and the baking powder will help for that. I'm quite happy with this. Right, I think that's good to go into our tray for the oven. I'm under orders to leave some of this for taste test purposes, so I'll leave a little bit, not too much. And then what we'll do is just even it out ever so slightly. And then that is going to go into the oven, again for about half an hour. And while that's baking, we can get on with making our sauce. Right, we're moving on to the sauce now. You need 150 grams of butter. I prefer to have it slightly salted because it cuts through the sugar. And then I have 100 grams of dark brown sugar, but some of the recipes go up to 300 grams. So what I would say is you decide for your own taste. And then I'm going to use 200 mils rather, of double cream. I thought it was quite amusing that I've got Scottish double cream here. That wasn't intentional, but there you go, Scottish double cream. So this is a 300 ml tub, so I'm just going to use 2/3 of that. And we've got a medium heat, and we're just very gently melting the butter and the sugar together. And I always like to be honest with you, I've put a tray here because for some reason, it might be because it's quite a dull night, the reflection from the lights were insane, and I think it would have really annoyed you. So I've just popped a tray there so that the light reflection doesn't drive you crazy. But at some point, I'm hoping to get a new hob now that we're actually going to be cooking together, because this one is not by any means new. It served its purpose and it's done well. But yeah, the reflection was terrible today, so I was thinking of you. So don't have the heat up too high for this, have a medium heat because you don't want to burn it. And even though it might look lovely and you want to try it and see if it tastes like toffee, if it's really nice, do not put your fingers in, don't try it, because it's basically hot butter, hot sugar, that's just going to burn. So even though you want to, don't touch it. Right, as you can see, the butter and the sugar have melted in together. So I'm now going to add our 200 mils of cream in, so about 2/3 of this 300 ml container. So about that much. And then you very gently turn up the heat. And you're waiting for it to bubble. But again, you're just being gentle with it. So this is it bubbling now. So this is where you take the heat off. So sometimes when you feel that it's getting a wee bit too ahead of itself, just lift it off the heat. But that's it. Now we take it away from the heat. That is our toffee sauce. And we let that cool. We're going to be using some of it when the cake comes out of the oven. And then the remainder is going to be your pouring sauce. But that's it. Again, it's really hot. Resist the temptation to try it because you will regret it. You will burn yourself. Just let it cool. And as it cools, it will very gently thicken and you'll get that lovely sticky toffee sauce. Right, so that's us. We're out the oven. It's still very hot. And if you've watched a few of these, you know that I've got no patience for letting it cool down. So I can tell you this took about 40 minutes. So recipe says about 30, but I was definitely 40. And when you're testing it, as you know, your knife will come out clear. But this time, what you're doing with this recipe is you're piercing it all over, similar to a lemon drizzle cake, you know, that kind of thing, because you're going to pour some of your toffee sauce over to allow it to sink in. And then you're keeping the remaining toffee sauce for when you're serving it. And this is our sauce, so it's cooled down. And again, it's handy to have the pots that have got the little lip on them so you can pour it. So I'm just going to pour a thin layer over it. And what this will do is it will set on top, but some of it's already sinking in. So that's us. Get rid of the little bit. You're now going to let that cool completely. And then what will happen, listen, I'm saying let it cool completely, you know I'm going straight in here. This will cool down and it'll be like a soft caramel if you like. Some of it will sink in, and then when it's ready to serve, you'll just take some out, really ladle it out, get it just so traditional old school puddings. And then you'll have some of your warmed up sauce and then maybe a little bit of cream or ice cream. And what I'll do just to finish the video is just show you it when it's served up. But that is a really good version of a sticky toffee pudding. So I hope you enjoyed that. As always, let me know in the comments if you liked it, if you make your own, or if you'd like to see some more. And I will see you again soon.